The ringing note warm-up is an etude that deals with what I call ringing notes, which are known in some circles as tonalization, and it's all about tone production. Now, I do have a video on the ringing third finger, which is where you should start. So you want to hear the resonance. Now, if you can't get this resonance to happen, then start on the ringing third finger video. Now, if you've been doing this for a little while, and you're starting to progress through the technique, your next step, once you can do the third finger really well, is to start doing first finger A. And you should make a very wide tunnel between your finger, your hand, and the neck of the instrument, because if the side of your finger touches the E string, you won't be able to get the E to ring, and sometimes you want that to get maximum sound and resonance. So you might be able to hear that my E string is resonating with the A because this is such a resonant note. So first finger notes would be your next order of business. I do find the third finger notes are the easiest ones to get. And you should always start with the one that just you find most easily. So you get used to feeling your violin. I call it the feeling of coming alive. The violin buzzes and vibrates a lot more. So you should feel that against your body and against your hand when you get a really good ringing note. It's almost like the violin is singing. Well, it is singing more. Next, after first finger A, do first finger E. And I do just want to mention that later on, depending on what you're playing, you may want to nudge your A and E down a little bit, depending on the chords and harmony that are happening in the piece that you're playing. So just a reminder that tuning is relative, and you need to know how to make your violin resonate the most. However, we can't always use the most resonant notes on our instruments, so sometimes we might have to push down a note. So these resonating first finger notes, I find a little bit on the high side, and that's okay. You want to make sure that your intonation is consistent before you start looking for expressive intonation. Now, once you can get those, the next thing you should do is start getting the ringing fourth finger. And this is where it gets a little bit interesting because many of us don't like to use our fourth finger. If you can get a ringing fourth finger to happen, something like an E on the A string, great. If you can't get any fourth finger notes to ring, if it's just not happening for you, what I suggest is actually that you go to third position and try the same notes with your second finger. This is often easier to find. We generally have a little bit more control. We're maybe better at rocking our elbow around. And again, remember, if your violin is out of tune or your instrument, your viola is out of tune, or if the back of your finger is touching the string that should be resonating, this isn't going to work. That being said, get it to resonate, get that pitch to resonate, and then we can worry about the fingers. So now the nice thing about third position is you've got a lot of resonating ringing first and second fingers. So one of the things that you want to start doing now is actually start doing your third finger notes with the other fingers. So here's a third finger A. Now I want the same sound, but with my second finger. Now with my first finger. Back to second, back to third. And avoid the temptation to push your fingers into the spot. We want that arm to move. You can do an actual shift. If you are just squishing your fingers in, be aware that that's a different technique. I call that micro shifting. And there's a time and a place for it, usually up here. But you want to know which one you're doing, and I do suggest if you're starting out as a beginner that you go for a proper shift, which includes the movement of the entire arm, so the arm starts to learn its distances along the fingerboard. Okay. Woo, sharp. Must be a viola player. Woo. So getting very adept at getting the same sound with every finger, even do the fourth finger. You never know when you're going to have to do something awkward and terrible to make a chord happen. So even the fourth finger, although I would say for an A on the E string, fourth finger is a lower priority than the others. So then you move on to something like an E on the A string and do it with the other fingers. And as I like to say, extra pro points if you can get the instrument to ring without lifting your bow. If you're having trouble, lift your bow, let the sound open out into the world a little bit more easily. But if you can get that very consistently, leave your bow on the violin. Oh, I killed it. Did you hear? I crushed the sound. Harder on an up bow because all the weight is here. So you want to get very adept at using all the fingers. Then the next thing that you do with the ringing note exercise is you can start maybe just going by string. By this point, hopefully you're comfortable enough that maybe you're not looking at the music anymore. I can't even remember how I wrote it out. Well, what you're looking for now is maybe getting those ringing notes on other strings. So this E, you can also play it here. Great. Ooh, there it is. Right? So you really want to start getting comfortable, getting really consistent sound with the same sound with every finger on all the different parts of the violin. Okay, and this will prepare you even more for changing positions because these are your landmarks for navigating the fingerboard. You really do need to know what note you're playing because you need to know how it's supposed to sound. When you're really, really good at these ringing notes and finding them all over the violin, then it's fun to try other instruments and see how much ring you can get out of non-ringing notes. So for example, maybe something like a B, which is not a ringing note. I don't have a B string, but this violin likes B. Right? I get something from it in terms of ring. Okay. Something like a C sharp. I get a bit. I'll get something from a C natural. B flat. Must be a good violin. Trying to find one that this violin doesn't like. I thought this violin didn't like C sharp. Hang on. No. So the next part of doing the ringing notes is then to start listening to the non-ringing notes because you'll have trained yourself to hear and be sensitive to the maximum amount of resonance. So you want to learn how to get that out of all the notes because sometimes notes need a little bit more depth. And if you're getting the best resonance out of each note, out of each ringing note, then you'll be able to find the right kind of sound out of the non-ringing notes, which is very helpful for keys with a lot of flats or a lot of sharps if you want to sound really, really good. And it's really, really important that you know how to do this when you go instrument shopping. I guess when I got this one, I didn't notice any notes not ringing. And this is something that can also be affected by setup too. So it's always possible that you can mess with the resonance of your instrument by messing with the setup, but that's another discussion. Enjoy and good luck.